at the last meeting, if you want to copy
Sure,
that.
sure.
They looked at their equipment and all of that, and the issues are that it's 30 years old and it's subject to failure.
Right, yeah, right.
It has been breaking down, we have been fixing it. The concern is a catastrophic failure, where it shuts down. Then, if something really bad happens, Department of Environmental Protection may not let us hook up again.
Yeah, Fort Pierce goes down, they'll be on that.
Yeah, it's,
Makes sense. Yeah, I didn't quite, I just wasn't up to speed on what the whole situation was. Thanks.
Again, I'm not up to speed. Is there a breakdown of the cost per unit?
not yet, not an exact breakdown.
Ballpark?
Well, Fort Pierce told us estimated about $950 per unit up to the meters, including the meters. What goes on inside the property is an added expense, which we have to get some engineering and some estimates as to what that cost is going to be,
And that's a one-time upfront cost.
one time. And then what happens is your water's actually cheaper per month.
Right.
So you know, right now Fort Pierce is offering an incentive to sign up. We're offering 50% off that initial hookup charge, another $950. So we got to get it done.
It's a capital improvement cost. They're willing to contribute half the cost.
I would assume they must run it through a much more recently built filter system down there in Fort Pierce too. I mean, it's got to be a whole new infrastructure.
Well, part of the reason they're offering a half-price capital improvement is because they overbuilt for all of St. Lucie County and all the growth.
Yeah,
And they built a huge plant, now they're not using it all. So it's new, it's in great shape, and the piping is new.
Yeah, new, better water.
Yeah, that $950 a month was their estimate up to the meter. Does not include our side of the meter, the fire pump, the piping, and all of that that's in. So it doesn't include the engineering costs.
But all those costs will be divided among all the units.
Yes, all 388
And then the
units.
monthly water bill will be
There'll be a meter at the street for our entire property.
correct.
There's no individual meters.
All right, and then
And
that'll
will
be,
that help the pressure?
It's supposed to be about the same, if not better. Here's the issue with pressure is they're offering a 65 to 70 PSI, okay? That's at the ground floor. Now you lose 5 PSI for every floor you go up. You can't have 100 PSI at the ground floor because it's going to blow everybody out. Or if we do put a booster pump in like Miramar did, then they put individual pressure reducing valves on the first couple floors, those units. Water pressure is an issue, and there's other problems with water pressure that, in my unit in particular, my shower is great. My kitchen faucet's poor. So it's a matter of the valves and the faucets and things getting clogged up. It's an issue. And the original design could have been better.
Let me address that specifically. The water coming here, that's an issue. The pressure is an issue we are going to look at as part of the whole process. Obviously, there's a solution to it, whether it's cost effective, whether we can do it from an engineering perspective yet. Here, no idea.
I've been living for 20 years, so I'm just curious.
We'd like
I'd like to get it done.
We'd like to boost the pressure, and it's possible. It's a matter of cost effective. That's water conversion. Any other issues, questions on the water conversion?
Anything else with water, please? That's the biggest thing you got facing you.
One of the things is that we need to sign an agreement with Fort Pierce. I believe our deadline is like February. And once we sign with them, we have a year to actually do the work. So we're pushing to try to get this done by this winter. Let's go on to the revise and approve the rules. We have a set of rules for contractors that we've been working on.
Okay, there's been a lot of complaints about the conduct of contractors and so on and so forth. They asked me to take that along. I've got input from a lot of people and want to thank them because a lot of them are here. Curtis in back here, our former president, made a lot of recommendations. Thank you. Okay, Mike, Don, Ed,
Stephanie?
Casey's gone, Stephanie, a lot of people have made input, so we tried to put that all together I think we're on about our 435th revision. You know, it never stops, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm going to read through them. There are 19 points in here, or 18 points. I'll read through them and stop after each point. Okay? We lost our president. Anybody seen our president?
Not here.
Okay, the first one has to do with hours. Contractors, including deliveries, importantly, okay, are welcome to the property Monday through Saturday, 8 in the morning to 6 at night. There are no restrictions for emergency services. Okay? But 8 to 6 is when both the contractors and the delivery personnel, we don't need people coming there at 8 o'clock bringing somebody a refrigerator. Okay? The second point after that, though, is construction noise. Major construction projects within a unit which have the potential of disturbing others, for example, using a pneumatic hammer or drilling in concrete, must be done Monday through Friday between 8 and 5. Okay? And those are also the hours that we got our people here. Anything? Third, contractors, again including deliveries, must register at the association office upon arrival and initially supply, 1, a scope of work, secondly, proof of insurance and the appropriate licenses. Subcontractors may also need to provide permits on certain types of projects. Owners are potentially liable for faulty work that damages other properties, for example, water leaks, or the use of corrosive attaching or other materials. I'll come back to you, Mike. If the office is not open, the contractor must leave a notice of the time of arrival, location, phone number, and the nature of the service to be performed. For example, in an emergency, if they have to come in on Sunday, broke a pipe or whatever. The black mailbox by the front door of the clubhouse is provided for that purpose. Mike, who is an attorney, by the way, has come up with some other language, which why don't you read it, Mike, and then we'll get it concluded.
Sure. One of the problems we've had here is when putting up shutters, anything on the exterior of the building, either using non-galvanized fasteners or even using galvanized fasteners, and what we end up with is rust streaks going down the building a few years later. So what I'm going to propose is that we have the following language. All exterior fasteners shall be made of SAE 316 marine grade stainless. Galvanized fasteners are not permitted on the exterior. That will eliminate the problem with the bleeding. For example, I had a new storm door put on recently. I think it cost me $5 or $6 extra to have the screws that are upgraded. The attachment screw is upgraded to stainless. It's not a huge expense, but it will save us a lot of work and keeps the building looking much better, especially because we're painting every 10 years. So we'll avoid those rust streaks down the building.
Right. You know, Curtis could probably comment better than anybody. He and I walk around here with a lot of contractors on painting, so did Ed. One of the biggest problems we had was you've got attaching things on the shutters, rusting. Rust runs right down the building. Okay. You just can't have it. All right.
We'll just let one more comment on that. There is another grade of stainless, which is what you typically see at Home Depot. It's the 304, but it's really not, by the ASTM standards, it's not sufficient for high salt environments.
How are you going to enforce that?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm hip to what you're
I hear you.
saying,
The 304, 316 is going to be almost impossible to enforce. However, I can tell the difference between galvanized and stainless, and if we've got to change out screws and repair it, that's going to be the owner's responsibility for that particular
The vendor ought
repair.
to be well made aware that before you put anything on, right, there's got to be a certain something
I agree with you, but at least
yeah,
some folks are going to pay attention to it. So,
the vendors,
the-
you know, whoever does your shutters at a consistent basis, say, I don't want you out here, this is the fasteners on our job, right?
Yeah.
There is a section in here where homeowners, can you jump to that?
Yeah, we'll get to it. Homeowners are going to be responsible if there's a
Yeah,
violation.
right, of
If we
course.
start seeing rust coming down, guess what? You got a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So it's up to the homeowners to enforce that these rules and
Yeah.
this material is used on their units.
Now, when you're talking about turning insurance certificates in and stuff, that's not just for delivery, that's if somebody's remodeling an apartment, I assume.
Right.
Yes.
But are you putting that on our staff to do that, or should that not be the owner's responsibility to present a package and say, here's what I'm doing, here's my list of subs and contacts?
Yes, the owner is ultimately responsible.
Well, I mean, even so you don't have to follow up with insurance. When by the time somebody comes in that door, you already ought to have their insurance in front of you. I know that's how I have to operate in most of the condos that I work up and down the coast on.
We are asking anyone who comes in for their license and insurance. We do ask.
No, I understand, you know what I'm saying? That ought to be taken care of before that. They ought to, if you're gonna remodel an apartment here, you know you're gonna have a plumber, you're gonna have an electrician, you're gonna have this. As an owner, you should be responsible to make sure your contractor gets you that paperwork. You shouldn't have to look through a file to make sure you've got all that.
Right, well, ultimately, the owner's responsible.
How
And
do
liable.
we let the owners know that?
Well, that's
We
what
have a lot
I'm,
of actions the owners.
We're gonna get them, Joni, we're gonna get them this.
We're gonna mail it to every owner?
No,
no, I was just trying to keep our office staff from having to say, you have your, you know, I mean.
That's a good point.
You come in here from Joe Blow Electric, then I know I've already got that in my file, that's already been approved and taken care of.
Some of the issues we've had, as an example, people tile their bathroom floor and they reset the toilet, they don't use a proper flange and seal, it leaks down the guy below. We go in and have to fix the drywall. Now, the owner upstairs should be ultimately responsible for that.
Well, yeah, somebody better be looking at shower cams, somebody better be looking at all that that goes in. I agree with that.
And the only way to enforce it is to make the owner responsible.
All right.
If
Joni?
we're obviously a condominium without a lobby. So in the other places, like where you took me to the princess, if people come in, if contractors come in, it's very easy for the staff to monitor the situation. How do we monitor it? You get a lot of contractors that'll never come near this office.
Right.
How do we go after them?
The owner is responsible for their work,
Well, what if the owner's in Michigan?
still responsible.
But do we have some kind of personnel that will police that situation?
Not really.
Well, we've been working on the cameras then for five, we got five estimates on cameras.
Yeah, we're looking at doing cameras at the gate with a monitor here, so whoever comes in, the person in the office will see who they are.
Okay, would there be, now the office staff go out and talk to the contractor if they immediately go to the 6th floor to do their
Yeah,
job?
we can do that. It's difficult. You know, we don't have the manpower, we don't have a guard at the gate. Ideally, we should have a guard at the gate.
But it's not part of the management company's job to do that.
Not for an individual homeowner doing work in their own unit, absolutely not. No.
Does the management company oversee the coming and goings of the contractor?
If an owner has brought somebody in, that is not for us to do as well. We track the comings and goings of the contractors that we've hired to come out here and do work. We cannot be responsible for what happens inside a unit or a homeowner getting a delivery, unless you want to get a staff of like 20 and have somebody do it. There's no capability to do that, and that's really, honestly, not in our realm. We are to manage the outside portions of the community. We're not supposed to do really anything on the inside unless it's deemed common property that the association is responsible for.
Dawn, what if there's a violation? What if there's a contracting job starts, they have never come to the office, the owner does not communicate with you and or Stephanie, then what do we do?
We can send the owner a violation letter. We can also bill the owner or fine the owner, but those are very, very rough waters to go down. Ultimately, it becomes a homeowner against homeowner situation if a homeowner has not contracted somebody that's licensed and insured and there's an issue.
Just call the building department.
And let's call the building
They'll
department.
come in a minute.
Right, absolutely.
So that is our recourse. Our recourse is to call the building department?
Sure, absolutely,
Code
absolutely.
enforcement.
Okay, should we
You have
move on?
that note,
Yes.
that number
Okay.
there?
Yeah, could you put that number in that mail out, please? Code
Code
enforcement?
enforcement?
Code enforcement,
St. Lucie County Code Enforcement?
okay.
Also, if we get the camera system or the monitor in here, the admin can, if we have some kind of a alarm system, a buzzer when the gate opens, when the camera goes on, and the gate opens, she could contact the maintenance man who could then go and see where the person's going and inform them they have to go to the office.
And I would rather have the maintenance man doing that, not the admin.
No, she would call the maintenance man.
Okay, it's a good idea. Let's move on. We got a lot more to go. Item 4, extensive renovation projects by general contractors will be inspected weekly to ensure compliance with association rules and regulations. Example, installation of approved sound abatement materials under tile. No drilling, channeling into the ceilings in any common area. No alteration to the common area, and any cutting of the tile granite will be done using a wet saw. Big thing there is if people are going to put down a hard floor, tile floor, you have got to have the cushioning underneath. And I don't think we've had any violations of that.
Well, I mean, do we have specs that we hand out to guys coming to put floors in?
I think they're in here, aren't they in here, Bill? About the quarter-inch cork or the other material?
When
I
I
think
go,
we do mention quarter-inch cork later on here.
Yeah, we have specs.
okay. The only reason I'm bringing any of this up is I'm a contractor who comes in and works up and down the beach in high-end units, and what typically happens when I show up on a job, I have got to get my insurance and everything to my person. I sit down and I meet with you. You hand me a contractor packet that tells me where I can put dumpsters, when I can't, what type of insurance I've got to supply to you. And then they always know, I mean, it is not beyond somebody that goes up that knows that 507 is getting done, 510
Sure.
is getting done. And that person always makes an appearance.
Sure.
It's not judging, it's not saying your solder's no good here or something, but just let people know that, hey, we are on this job.
We have to really instill what those guidelines are. I can tell you
Right.
at another property I have, we have the specs completely
Yeah,
written out.
yeah, it'd be so much
And,
simple.
and what the management company will do in that regard is when the contractor is doing the work, we get a sample of the cork, the underlayment,
Yeah, of course.
plus a packet of what the product is, whether it's an IIC rating of 69 or whatever it is. And then what we'll do after that is go into the unit once the flooring has been taken out and the underlayment has been put down, and take a picture. All that goes into the owner's file. That way we can go back and say, we know that this owner put in the appropriate underlayment. We know that the owner used...
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yes.
Or you just tell them, this is the
Right.
waterproofing
But that's
they want
all
on
in
your wall.
a real world where people come in and their contractors aren't diverting us.
Well, I mean,
Right.
that diverting who, I guess whoever's getting diverted is getting diverted, but,
Right, right.
you know what I'm saying, you gotta get in there.
But we absolutely, if we know somebody's doing flooring, we're gonna go check it
Yeah,
out.
no,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
being judgmental.